Hey, hey, hey. Good afternoon. Welcome to Capture the Empress's lunch party. I hope y'all are as excited as I am about this endeavor. This makes the second book that I have been able to publish this year, and it is also the last book that I'm going to be able to publish this year. Now, I do have one that's coming out in January. It's going to be live January 17th. More on that at the end of this, though. So, what are we here for? Capture the Empress is available now. Now, unless Streamlabs did the weird thing and changed the link again whenever we went live, the order here link should be good for the descriptions. And we also have the order here link shared by the lovely Eva. Hello, Eva. How are you? And we had Jules stopping by. She can't stay, but thank you for wishing me a happy launch day. You are greatly appreciated. Now, this book was interesting to write. It's my first endeavor into the erotic genre, I guess, but it was fun. It's the first one where I have gotten tons of feedback on. So I usually have one or two beta readers, and of course my husband as an alpha reader. This one had 5 beta readers, and of course my husband as an alpha reader. So yeah, I got a lot more feedback on this one than I usually do, and hopefully that will be the same from here on out. I like having 5 beta readers. Thank you, Cat Bob. Thank you, Mel. I hope y'all are having a good day. Let's go back up here. Okay, so Capture the Empress. Like I said, it was interesting. The link is down below in the description box or in the chat, whichever you want to link so that you can purchase it now. This was the way of the cover. Capture the Empress used to be Capture the Queen because I wasn't really going to use the term Empress in this, just because I don't know, it didn't hit well, but after edits and stuff like that, I just went ahead and went with Empress because she technically is an Empress, Milva, the main character. So it's Capture the Queen, and I'm always going to keep it underneath my normal writing pen name, but after some consideration, since this is an erotica, I went ahead and put it under S.W. Lupine, which is my spicy pen name. Now, here is what's on the back. This is the blurb. Clava Milva, Empress of 20 countries, ruler of the Kafkan elite, is forced to torture herself and her 2 bloodsworn sisters every day for the past 35 years. And longer if they live longer. For they are to act as one, be one, even unto death. At their yearly gathering, where they tear their flesh to match each other perfectly and meld memories from their year of separation, they learn of a threat. An unknown kingdom threatens, but it's too late, for they're already there. Reuben has dreamed of a peaceful world, where no child is orphaned with the ugliness of war. Together with his parents and siblings, he plans to make it a reality. But first, he must subdue the powerful mercenary empress with fire in her veins, literally. The more he reads about her and then studies her once he infiltrates her country of Kafkan, the more he respects her. Watching barbaric traditions torture her, he vows to help her break those bonds and set her free. With each day, he finds his respect marches alongside desire. It's made even worse when he makes his move to take her country and kidnap her. Now he has to convince her not to kill him. So that is Milva and Riven, the two main characters in Capture the Empress. Yeah. Here's some tropes here in Capture the Empress. He falls first. It's enemies to lovers, obviously. Cinnamon roll is Riven, and deadly tsundere is Milva, pretty much. It's a lot of spice, fire and ice, literally again. There's comedic moments laced with trauma healing, because that's what I know. They rely on one another at the end, and there is political intrigue. Hey, Broken. Good morning or afternoon. I'm so used to streaming in the morning. Okay, so I'm going to read 3 scenes, and then if you want me to read a specific page, go ahead and enter in the chat a number between 1 and 338, and I'll read that page if it's not too much. And then we can also have a Q&A. If you have a question for me or about Capture the Empress or something like that, just kind of do a Q. That way I can catch it easier in the chat, because sometimes it does jump. But we are going to read the first part of chapter 1, because we can't read the last part of chapter 1 because it'd be too much for the YouTubes. All right. So here is chapter 1 of Capture the Empress. Thank you, Sako. 2 living mirrors met her in her lava-lit chambers. Her blood-sworn sisters smiled as she did, keeping up the eerie effect. To greet her as Clava, for she was, and they were for their people, too. Clava, my sisters, she said, warmth spreading in her chest, watching their most trusted servants stare in awe at the 3. Despite this passage of time, seeing herself twice remained unsettling. After the assassination of the first Clava, her daughter devised and implemented a brilliant plan. The same daughter, the second Clava, chose a pair of families to breed daughters to look exactly like Kafkan royalty to safeguard the bloodline. Mating techniques and synchronized sessions ensured each woman birthed close to the same time. Every Clava thereafter had 2 bloodsworn who resembled her perfectly, decoys. Those households gave birth to the duo with the true Clava. They took them from their mothers when they were still suckling and molded them into exact replicas. Now grown, these Clavas awaited the disarmament. Her servant, Gurna, stepped forward in sync with the other maids and began unlatching the black and flame armor of their mistresses. The metal, seemingly insubstantial but nearly impenetrable, created the illusion of walking amidst eternal flames. They took each piece to be polished, replaced any needed straps, and reworked them into brighter and stronger metals. Stripped down to the thin, breathable charcoal underthings, Clava's body grew weightless. It was only in front of them she took off the armor. Such was her curse as the ruler of Kafkan, the greatest kingdom of killers the world had ever known. Silence filled the room after the servants bowed and departed. Their black hair gleamed in the molten light, cascading in from the wall to ceiling windows. The lava's force couldn't melt them, nor would they let it in. Kafkan was a volcanic dominion of fire magics and the most northern kingdom in the continent. A home of the best mercenaries, assassins, and army. Birthed amid lava lakes, surrounded by blue ice glaciers, and hot springs made native-born ready for any element the world could toss at them. I'll take a pause so I can drink. As it were, social classes barely existed in their country. The superior Kofkins became the bloodsworn, the trio being the deadliest, as flames of infinite fire. Thank you, Shannon. Like the infinity star flower that never died, and the three had tattooed on their wrists. That's what the masses believed for generations. As soon as the large doors carved from snowflake obsidian closed behind the servants, the Klavas relaxed. Hava, Nava, she spoke their names with a smile, even as she whispered, a full year had passed since they were in this room together. Stepping into the curve of their arms, she pressed her forehead to theirs. Comfort, home. 3 women, sisters, bound by blood, and unique in the world. Milva, they replied, her name so rarely spoken, she hardly remembered the last time she heard it. They knew her mind, and she theirs. Ready? 2 windows of spilling lava bracketed them as they strode toward their duty. She placed her hand upon the curve of the gray basalt wall. She spoke a singular word, Asdua, meaning open in their ancient language, a language nearly forgotten except for those in the royal household, generals, and messengers. It slid seamlessly, revealing a glass hallway thrusting through the molten fall. The trio stepped into the hall, following the short path into another basalt wall, which opened with the same word. A chamber of obsidian glistening in the orange light from the central pool of clear water, streaming over yet more Sarah's fire. Magic of the goddess Kazuki saved the holdings from turning to ash. Low red, gold, and purple pillows lined the cool floors amid thick blankets of violet and blue. Clava led her bloodsworn to an alcove on the right, boasting of weapons from all over the world. Sharp and deadly, they glistened in the fiery glow of the room. Central to this space was a table laden with gauze, ointments, needle, and threads. Neither of you better have any new paper cuts. Those are the worst. Hava glared at each of her sisters as her cloth belt fell to the floor, followed by her tunic and pants. Nava grinned, following suit, but she gathered her clothes and folded them neatly and placed them on the edge of the first aid table. I thought you hated whiplashes the most. Yes, but they're rare for us, Hava replied. Milva eyed the sovereign leather embedded with gemstone shards and grimaced. Only once. That was enough. She joined her sisters in their nakedness. I have no new wounds. She thanked the gods, for she detested wounding them. Nor I, Hava added. Both swung their gazes to Nava, who sighed heavily. They watched her turn to reveal a scarred gash like a wide claw had dragged over her flesh from hip joint to spine. It liked belly rubs, she said in explanation as the others groaned. Milva grabbed a circle of blades from the wall. She sized each blade against the scar, measuring which one would fit it. Settling on the third to largest, she handed it to Hava and turned. Placing her hands on the lip of the table, she gave a nod. The sign received, Hava dragged the edge from hip bone to spine, deepening the cut in the medius part, just as the healed wound on Nava looked. Orange blood spurted from the fresh slash, spilling down Milva's scarred thigh. Nava added a thick swatch of ointment across the lesion from a blue vial. The bleeding stopped. Her skin hardened into scar tissue. Milva watched the medicine work. I adore this new gel. It makes our lives so much easier. Where was this 10 years ago? Nava asked, rolling her eyes. If someone wouldn't try to pet every little clawed thing, we might not have to use it as often, Hava bit out. They're cute. Milva shook her head. Hava, you're just as lousy with cooking. Oh, you mean murdering fruit and vegetables in such a way they're unrecognizable and tasteless in a meal? Nava interjected. Hava glanced at her hands. I didn't cut any off this time. See? She asked as she held them up, the circle of knives jangling dangerously close to her forearm. Fire and smoke, woman, give me those. Nava snatched the circlet from Hava's hooked fingers. Nothing terrible was going to happen. Says the one who thinks a bit of extra blood in the meal is spice. Nava and Hava eyed each other, then grinned. Your turn. Milva plucked Blaze from Nava's palm and waited for Hava to situate herself. The key was to stay calm, breathe, and understand the pain was temporary. She thanked the gods for the ointment, newly rendered by magician healers in her employ. The three Clavas were grateful for their ingenuity. Thank you, Sako. So much so, she made sure they didn't dream of selling to anyone else, nor live anywhere but in Kafkan. She gave them free housing in her wealthy district, plus a salary and royalties for medicinal purchases. Her people were experts at keeping secrets. Cutting the matching swath into Hava, Milva kept her thoughts to herself as Hava growled curses under her breath. Her life's blood was the normal reddish-orange of her bloodsworn, not bronze like hers. Only through proximity, or witnessing her blood on a white cloth, could someone discern the dissimilarity. Hava was the clumsy one out of them. Among the three, she lacked grace the most. Nava was the kin who would likely act without thinking first, especially if it was a cute animal distracting her. Milva held her anger on her sleeve and had a disdain for all things too feminine. Because of this, their long hair resulted from a challenge, not of her daring. She hated it the most of all the attributes she'd given Nava and Hava leave to wear or do. The day she would shave her head was nearing, for she could feel the annoyance reaching the boiling point with the straight, inky tresses. Nava covered the wound with the ointment as soon as Milva cleared the blade from Hava's flesh. It's not so bad, right? Milva rolled her eyes as Hava poked Nava in the forehead and asked, anything else? Ah, these new exercises I learned, Hava grinned. They tighten the canal for ultimate pleasure. The two groaned, but listened intently as Hava explained the drill. We will get a visual next door. Milva held up her hand, stopping Hava from grabbing one of the metal balls from the table. That'll be enough. She took them to the furthest alcove in the grand room. The absence of wars made this part of the yearly ritual the hardest, for during battles the trio were inseparable. In times of peace, they had affairs of state to attend. Clava's triplets from 3 generations back contributed to much of Kafkan and their stately affairs, making it supreme. The gods had blessed Clava Wava with 3 girls, and the bloodsworn families had struggled to find 6 babes to mold into their likenesses. With 9 acting Clavas, a spread of new lands like no other, and none since, fell into Kafkan hands. Even though the kingdoms under their rule called themselves allies, it was a true empire. The triplets had built the fortress on the volcano of their god, which to this day was called their capital, Zvonkla. Their capital, their fortress, and the ways of ancient Clavas were still practiced, mostly. A low table of onyx held a large diamond vessel suspended above it. They sat around it, upon wide pillows of soft, cool cloth. Each woman stretched forward, pricking a finger on the sharp corners of the clear gem. Into the bowl, they each squeezed 3 droplets of blood. I'm going to take another drink. Yay, the allergies. Then, settling back, she reached for their hands. The basins swirled with their blood together, the diamond throwing sparks of light and color upon the walls as it spun. And they closed their eyes, and the Clavas spoke the three words that would unite their minds into one yet again. Gala so suv. As if she lived it herself, Hava and Nava's lives entered her memories. Every detail, from their morning breath to the nightly armor pinch, mattered. The past year of her life infiltrated theirs too. This way, if one were to encounter someone the other had met, they knew the names and previous interactions. Once finished, after hours of soaking in each other, she opened her eyes and grinned at her bloodsworn. Hava, Nava, Milva, they said in unison. She turned to Nava and questioned the story of the king with 20 sons. Broaching a subject while the brain was cataloging information was quicker at times, and she was impatient. I am not sure. There were whispers of this kingdom's hostile maneuvers conquering, somehow. Any of ours? Hava asked. No, not yet. I believe the one spoken of was an island kingdom far to the south and west, a place I've never heard of, Nava explained. There is fear. More people talk of this threat there. Nava had spent her year in the south, tightening the bonds that held their empire together. Alliance. That's what the kingdoms under her rule wanted to call themselves, the Alliance. Allies. She'd agreed. After all, the words empire and such created unrest among those that didn't hold the highest rank of empress or emperor, and the kingdoms needed that emotional boost after losing. Clavas weren't one for titles, just power. We should prepare then. If fear sows discord in the south, then we should assume this threat is real, Milva stated, looking at Hava and Nava in turn. What of the west? Any rumors there? Not a word, Hava responded. This is new for me as well. What of the north? Nothing. Milva shook her head, leaning forward to prop her chin up on her fist. It felt odd being bare. The situation was simultaneously glorious and worrying. Every minute of every day spent in the metal meant her armor became like a second skin. But getting to live in her flesh, to remember where each of her scars came from, whether they were hers or her sister's, was also sublime. What is the significance of 20 sons? Hava asked, leaning back on her pillow, stretching long legs riddled with identical scarred slashes and jagged stab wounds. 20 kingdoms, Milva mused aloud, for that's what she controlled. Ridiculous. Not all have birthright inheritance like we do. Nava shook her head and stared at the diamond empty of their blood, its magic completed. If that is the case, then they intend to conquer us. May the gods be on their side, because there is no chance in smoke we will yield. Hava grinned at the ceiling. 20 sons become none. Milva chuckled. May that be true, and that king has to start all over again with whatever plan he had. They lounged on the pillows, some more, allowing the ointment to finish and their memories to settle. Quiet was comfortable among them. Silence was as warm as a blanket upon the glacier encampment with the sisters. A year of solitude without familiar companions was truly hellish. Sometimes it needed to be done. United, they would quell rumors or conquer the king with many sons. Ooh, okay, so that is part of the first chapter. Okay. Just tell me what you think so far. Got a congrats from Sako. Congrats from Shannon. Made friends with the like button. Sako's still working. Shannon says, nice. Thank you. Shannon also said 216. So I'm going to jump to 216 and then I'll read another scene that I chose. Here we go. It's not too detrimental. Okay. Shannon says, like it, engaging. Eve is like, I just got here, but a short brought me here. Interesting. Except I wasn't a short, it was an F book, which I was scrolling reels. Heads up. Nice. Happy launch. Hey, Alice. Thank you. All right. So I'm reading 216. If y'all would like me to read a page, hit a number between 1 and 338, and I will read it too, as long as it's not, bad. As long as it's live stream friendly. We'll put it that way. No, you may not. At his frown, she grinned. Whatever I do to you is only what you may do to me. Fair enough, he said with a twist of his lips as he tossed the book to the floor. Does anyone else come in here? Wouldn't that be rich? An audience like the parties in Kafkin she hated. Again, she was thankful they had happened every 5 years and not each one. He snorted, only me, and now you. She kissed his forehead, the tip of his nose. His lips parted as she went down, but kissed his chin instead, under it. Hateful woman. Needy man, she said, kissing his jugular and the dip between his clavicles. She pressed her tongue there. The heat of his body comforted her. Drawing back up, she kissed the pulse point to the left of his neck before placing her lips below his earlobe. I'm not sure I like this game, he said, even as in his mind he was begging for more, imagining her later in his arms. She bit his earlobe, sucked on it. She relished in him drawing taut under her, like a bowstring. No wonder Nava liked these kinds of things. She frowned, then cleared her mind. No distractions. She nipped the hardness of his jaw and was about to kiss his cheek when he turned on her. Milva found her lips over his, and he tasted sweet, but bitter, like the coffee he enjoyed. The scent of books and rum filled her nose more as she opened her mouth to him. Her tongue met his before she pulled away. That's where I'm going to stop, because then it gets kind of, yeah. Cat pauses. Intriguing. All right, Alice is giving me 123. And then I'll jump to, let's see. I'm going to try. Okay, so I'm going to read a little snippet before I read page 123. So this is the first 2 pages of chapter 5. Now your stamp is misaligned. Time to do my first cover up in 2025's journal. All right, here we go. First couple of pages of chapter 5, and then I'll get to 123. He put her to sleep, knocked her out, something. Somehow, Milva remembered being pinned, the trickster telling her to sleep. Why had she obeyed? Rage was a fickle thing. The dangerous mood traveled from clava to clava, down the bloodline, along with the fire burning within their veins. An instance of overwhelming rage could destroy the strategies she built in an instant. This time, it would get her killed. At least then she would be with her sisters. You have my word. Ribbon's voice held notes of sincerity. That meant nothing. The Clava watched him. His eyes, his soul burned brightly through him, nearly as bright as the low, wispy lava falls behind him in the southern portion of her coffin. She wished the heat bothered him more, like a true stranger to her lands. The blade resting against her neck tickled. Death after killing her enemy was a fine way to return to the gods. The dagger held to Gurna's throat bothered her more than it should have. With only one blood-sworn left, it was not a welcome threat to her sanity, or lack thereof. Release me here, she dies, and then you shall be tortured with her death for 32 years. She pulled him toward her, off the stone railing of the bridge, and allowed him to steady himself on his own 2 feet. Milva remembered him telling her of the custom upon murder. He forced her hand from his neck, straightening his armor and underclothing with a movement, and another shrug. I've told you a handful of times now, no more harm shall come to your kingdom, nor the people within it. Unless you continue to do stupid things, the guard still holding his sword against her throat said in a low, growling lilt. Any warrior would do the same. Would you not try to free yourself of capture if given the chance? She asked, biting her cheek to keep the anger down. She almost had him. If not for his quick reflexes, she would have allowed her mountain to swallow him, and her too. Prince, I would advise you not to ride next to her. A slender man spoke with a broken voice from behind the angry guard. The black eyes of said prince burned into her soul. It would not have mattered. If I were before her, behind her, or in the sky, she could have, and may yet, find a way. How perceptive of you. The Clava swept her gaze to the fall of lava, observing it pool and swirl before forming a river flowing swiftly down the mountain. This stream fed a lake. There, the fiery blood of the goddess delved back into the depths of the earth, melting a path to the core. She wouldn't see the earth's center. Maybe her great-great-grandchildren would. The bridge they were on had witnessed blood fed to fire and mountains and to the core. It was the bridge of Kono, or sacrifice, the same overpass she was planning on killing the prince at if they ever returned. Though she had plenty of plans of murdering him all throughout her kingdom, she wiggled her toes and her boots. Distraction. Focus. Which strategy would work best to make sure she didn't cause Gurna's death? It's too hot, one guard whined for the 1000th time since their voyage began. It can be hotter. Allow me to show you. Smiling sweetly, Milva turned towards him, as a good hostess would to a guest. He had to be 10 years her junior. His eyes widened, the knot in his throat bobbing with a hard swallow. When he looked away from her, she strode to her mare and mounted. He was the same mouthy runt from before that hid behind the others. She just flew from her horse to the prince. Maybe we should tie her to the saddle, a larger guard suggested. She's a guest, the prince barked, silencing his companions. Ride, he ordered after being pushed up on his steed. Okay. Now we get to 123. This shouldn't be too bad. No. Alright, so page 123. She hoped he would take the hint and leave her alone. He stood, walked towards her, and without a word, lifted her from her chair in one graceful movement. Stop. Milva pressed against him, trying to get a foot down out of his arms and onto the floor again. No, he countered, holding her tight as he crossed the room. She frowned as he placed her gently in the bed. He pulled the covers from the end of the bed over her. Milva swatted the covers down to her waist. What is wrong with you? He rounded the end of the bed to get in beside her. That depends on who you ask. He propped up on an elbow on his pillow, looking down at her. What do you think is wrong with me? You manhandle me too much. It was what left her lips, but not the first to cross her mind. The others, like him, being gentle after cracking her skull open days ago, were dangerous to tread upon, or how he was so comfortable getting into bed with her. I figured you wouldn't object, seeing as how you've been wounded so many times against your will. His brow quirked. Calling it manhandling is a bit much. I thought a little gentleness might soothe what those injuries did to you mentally, even if they are part of your traditions. With his free hand, he straightened the covers from where she'd swatted them away. He raised them under her breast, his fingers smoothing the soft fabric embroidered with tiny flowers before resting just under her diaphragm. What was he talking about? Strength, gashes to scars, bumps and bruises, all of those strengthened her. Gentleness weakened. It made the muscles lax, the senses less sharp. Panic set in if the mind wasn't ready for a challenge. I'm glad the page wasn't so spicy. Me too. You're following me. Also, you're addicted. Good. The link to order is down in the description box. It should be a universal link so you can purchase it or borrow it from a library or do an ebook or anything like that. And we still got time. I'm only going to try to keep you till like 2 o'clock. So if you want to hear some more pages, leave them in the comments. Or if you have any questions about the story, I will be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you. Yes, it is on Amazon. Is the link not showing Amazon? Weird. Give me a sec. Amazon is always kind of weird with universal links. Sometimes it'll populate, and other times it just is like, screw you. Right? Come on. Copy. Thank you. Okay, so there's a link to Amazon for the paperback, and you can choose the Kindle version too. Paperback is $13.99, and Kindle version is $2.99. I try to make it as less as possible just to make it friendly for everybody. Yeah, it's weird. I'm going to fix that. Me and links, y'all, we don't get along. And according to Amazon, it arrives 8 days before Christmas, or it can. Okay. So this is chapter 11. So Riven basically kidnaps Milva and takes her to his country. And this is when they get into Rothland. So Milva has asked the servants to go ahead and eat with them. Not until you eat, Basal stammered at her elbow. Defy me again when I give you an order, and I shall show you how well this cutlery skins you alive. She watched as Basal hurriedly took an almost empty plate of meat and filled the rest of it with pastries. The Rothland servant retreated to the sitting area before the fireplace. Garna, I know you're not shy. Yes, it's supposed to be categorized. Wow. Okay. I'm not Maklava, but I was looking forward to seeing your handiwork again. Gurna's pout turned into a small smile as she filled another plate and joined Basal, probably to torture the other woman more. She bit back the laugh, but gave Gurna the sign for well done with a few flicks of her fingers. Eating quickly, she outpaced Riven, cleaning her plate in 5 bites. Then she drank down the coffee, delighting in the burning sensation before her blood soaked it in. Leaning back in her chair, she watched him. While I appreciate you admiring me, I have to wonder if you're not picking out a place to stick that butter knife or a shard of a broken plate. Choking you on a pastry is my favorite idea of the 10 so far, Milva said with another grin. You're a morning person. His face said it all. He wasn't. Hardly. I'm a meet my enemies at my best type of person. She didn't sleep, Basal blurted. For a moment, Riven studied the servant from his country before returning his attention to Milva. Why? She wondered if he was concerned about the climate suitability for her again. His little mind powers could prove useful to her if his voice in her head was his powers and not her losing touch with sanity. Milva lifted a shoulder, her armor scraping lightly. New place, new enemies. Would you sleep under those circumstances? Like a baby. Then you're a fool, she would normally reprimand, but he wasn't her man. He wasn't truly her general. He chuckled. I thought Kofkins enjoyed challenges. Do they not? Or is that just you? Yes, but there are no obstacles here. I'm bored. The new enemies are far from ideal for any challenge. Melba took a long sip of her coffee to finish it. I am a challenge. The prince's lips twisted to one side as his eyes bored into hers. She kicked the dining table into him. Riven toppled over his chair amid the clattering dishes and silverware. She pressed the edge into the soft spot, the break in his armor at his diaphragm, as soon as he stretched back to launch himself up. Milva grinned as his air whooshed out of him, and she slammed her body against the table, using her own chest plate to drive both the weight of the heavy wooden piece and herself into him. He grunted, gripping the smooth edge. She saw the veins pop in his neck as he strained to get out from under the rib-breaking wood. Clava, he breathed. No harm. He barely got out the words. Bones breaking is little harm. Sorry you had an accident. These tables are so heavy. She leaned along her edge, patting the table like an animal she adored. The cloth fell away at her urging, leaving the dark black wood bare and Riven covered in the white cloth and a few shards of dishes. So yeah. I was just feeling spicy romance, yeah. So I got feedback on three blurbs that I had written out. And this one was the one that everybody liked the most. By saying everybody, I mean the 3 people I got feedback from on it. They said that because of the title, it has dark fantasy erotica in it, that the blurb is good that way. So, I don't know. I do have beneath the blurb on the book that it is a fantasy or erotica, reader beware. So there's erotica on all sides except for this part. So hopefully, that is warning enough. But like I said, one of the blurbs that I had, this is an erotica, and then it had the blurb, but all 3 of them were like, yeah, it's in the title, don't do that. So whatever. we'll do it that way. And if it doesn't work, I will change it back to whatever I want. Right. Hey, Jenna, thank you. All right. So, are there any questions or any more pages y'all want me to read? Trying to see which pages are dangerous. Thank you, Shannon. You are awesome. Also, I have a pronunciation guide on my website. So if you want to check that out, there is the link, because there are some words in there that can be weird. Like the barokor. It's a beast that I've made up kind of for this. It's kind of like a tiger, badger, and wolf had a child. But their fur is almost like a sea otter intensity. Excuse you, ma'am. Like I said, almost like a sea otter intensity. So otters have 1 million hairs per square inch, and a barokor has 500,000 hairs per square inch. So yeah, they can swim, climb, dig, and leap. Habitat ranges along the glaciers in the north of the continent, and it is 9 foot or 2.7 meters long, with a 1800 psi, which is the bite, and that's equal to a hippopotamus. So, animals, y'all. I go a little overboard with animals. Everyone says unavailable. It's pulling up for me. I wonder if they... It's weird. Hold on. Nope, it says unavailable there. I didn't get a notification that they had blocked it because it's erotica. Overdrive, Cloud Library, Hoopla, Borrowbox, Palace, and Odillo blocked it because it's erotica. So I'm wondering if Everend is having that issue too. That's so weird. I'll email Draft to Digital here soon. I wonder if all the others are doing that. Fable's good. Vivio's good. That's just weird. Okay. Maybe. That's just weird. I am pulling it up on my desktop, so, and I don't have the app. I think Karina has the app, so I can see if she can do it. Angus. Yeah, Angus is, I think, what is Angus? Yeah, I'll have to email Draft to Digital to see if Everin has blocked it because of the erotica. I don't think it would, because I think I've seen erotica on Everin before. Shannon says, I had a reader email me to ask for some pronunciations. Yeah. The pronunciation guide was kind of fun to make. I was thinking about putting the actual pronunciation guide in the box set whenever I make it for like Kickstarter. I'm probably going to do 2 box sets, 5 and 5, and then all 10, maybe. So I'll probably put the pronunciation guide in the 5 and 5. And just keep it on the website for now. So yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I wonder if it's Alice, you would have like the membership on Everend if that's what you use. So it might be showing, I don't know. Yes, considering this is erotica, this is my favorite pronunciation. Sliff. Like 5th, but with SL. Yes. Hey, Misha. How are you? Okay. So, you have Fable. Okay. It is kind of weird because I usually, like I said, okay, me and Lynx, we usually don't get along. There is always something wrong with some link somewhere. Doesn't matter what I do. But yeah, Drafted Digital has been usually pretty good. I haven't had any problems with them. But like I said, with Capture, it is blocked in several of the programs or companies they aggregate to because it is erotica. But according to this, Barnes & Noble, Rakuten, Apple Books, Tolino, Biblio, Gardner's, Fable, Smashwords, Baker and Teller, and it says Everend is where it's all published. But yeah, it says. And of course, it is on Amazon as well. Okay, all right. I am going to let y'all go. I didn't want to keep you for more than an hour. Okay. On Smashwords, Kobo, Apple, Biblio, Fable, and not on Everend, Angus. Can't see Thalia. Angus, I think, is not a drafted. I think I have to go through Lulu for Angus, and I'm not on Lulu. Just because these first few books, I just wanted to kind of stick to Drafted Digital, Ingram Spark, and Amazon, which I'm No Hero is not really through Amazon. It's through Ingram Spark and Drafted Digital because Amazon was like, no, we don't want that kind of big book. Maybe. That's just weird. Maybe. Thank you. All right. Don't forget Sunday, Breaking the Block at 10 a.m. Bring all your questions or issues that you have with your creative selves and life. And I will see you then. Bye.